especially in the north, and actually WFP is describing the situation as full-blown famine. So what exactly are you doing to pressurize or persuade or cajole the Israelis to make sure that this is not going to happen and not materialize in actually a full famine?
So we continue to work day and night. Our special envoy for Middle East humanitarian issues is back in the region today after being back in Washington for consultations around Minister Gallant's visit. She's back in the region working on this exact issue today, trying to not just get humanitarian aid into Gaza, but most importantly, make sure it is distributed around Gaza. I think everyone's aware that that has been the chief impediment to actually getting food to the Palestinian people. It's not getting aid into the pier, it's not getting aid into Kerem Shalom, it's then making sure that it can be distributed from those points onward. We have had a number of discussions between, I should say, we have been involved in a number of discussions in the past few days between the various United Nations agencies and various components of the Israeli government to try to work through some security challenges that the UN is currently facing. To deliver humanitarian assistance. We continue to push to try to resolve their legitimate concerns about the safety and security of their personnel, and are continuing to push to try to work through some asks that they have on the table pending with the government of Israel to try to make it safer for their personnel to take humanitarian assistance and deliver it around to the people of Gaza.
That was my follow-up actually, because the UN said that
I anticipated
Israel,
that.
I read my mind.
Or
that Israel. So, do you believe that actually the Israelis can improve the way that the UN agencies, especially their workers, are delivering the aid? It could be met.
Yeah, there are a number of things that Israel can do. I spoke to some of them yesterday. Some of them is to allow protective personal equipment for UN workers. Some is to kind of increase communications between the IDF and COGAD and UN workers. And then there's some other things too that the UN workers have asked for that I'm not going to get into from this podium, but there is more that can be done. There are some of the requests where Israel has legitimate security concerns, and what we're trying to do is broker agreements that give the UN personnel the assurances they need that they can operate securely while still protecting Israel's legitimate security concerns.
One last question is, I'm sure you've seen these detailed reports that most of them have harrowing accounts of Palestinian prisoners being rounded up. Some of them are being sexually assaulted, shackled for hours, inhumane conditions, and that's a description of Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem and others, and witnesses who are actually a part of the IDF who came and talked about what happened. So you often call Israel as an ally who you shared values with. So how can the United States make sure that these things, which is obviously unacceptable for most democracies, that is not allowed to happen? What exactly are you doing? What the mechanism that you're using to make sure that this is not happening, and if you're investigating it yourself?
So with respect to any investigations, there are, as I've said before, a number of incidents that we are reviewing when it relates to potential human rights abuses, potential violations of the laws of war, and I'm not going to speak to any particular incident from here, but there are a number of incidents where we have reviews ongoing. But that said, separate and apart from that, we have made clear to Israel that we fully expect them to comply with all human rights laws, international laws of war. That includes the treatment of prisoners and detainees. And when there are abuses, those ought to be investigated. If accountability is appropriate, there ought to be accountability, and we'll continue to make that clear then. Sure. Who was that? Who asked the question?
Yeah, I wanted to follow on that.